Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayet. Nastaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. So it's 16 August 2024. Ekadashi here. I imagine it's Dvadashi over there, but all auspicious time. And we are reading Canto 3, Chapter 7, Text 21 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Shrishtvagre Mahat Adini
Shrishtvagre Mahadadini
Savikaranyanu
Savikaranananukramat
Tebhyo Virajam Udritvatya
Tebhyo Virajam Udritya
Tamanu Pravishad Vibhu
Tamanu Pravishad Vibhu
Shrishtvagre Mahat Adini
Shrishtvagre Mahadadini
Savikaranyanu
Savikaranyanukramat
Tebhyo Virajam Udritya
Tebhyo Virajam Udritya
Tam Anu Pravishad Vibhu
Tamanu Pravishad Vibhu
Srishtvagre Mahat Adini
Shrishtvagre Mahadadini
Savikaranyanu
Savikaranyanukramat
Tebhyo Virajam Udritya
Tebhyo Virajam Udritya
Tam Anu Pravishad Vibhu
Tamanu Pravishad Vibhu Shrishtvagre Mahadadini
Srishtvagre Mahat Adini
Savikaranyanukramat
Savikaranyur
Tebhyo Virajam Udritya
Tebhyo Virajam Udritya
Tamanu Pravishad Vibhu
Tamanu Pravishadvivu. Anyone else would like to read the verse?
Shrishtvagre Mahadadini
Srishtvagre Mahat Adini
Savikaranyanukramat
Savikaranyanu
Tebhyo Virajam Udritya
Tebhyo Virajam Udritya
Tam Anu Pravishat Vibhu
Tamanu Pravishad Vidhu Vibhu. Okay. Srishtva,
Shrishtra
after creating.
After creating
Agre,
Agre
in the beginning.
In the beginning
Mahat Adini,
Mahat Adini
the total material energy.
The total material energy
Savikarani,
Savikarani
along with the sense organs.
Along with the sense organs
Anukramat,
Anukramat
by a gradual process of differentiation.
By a gradual process of differentiation.
Tevya,
Ebhya
out of that.
Out of that.
Virajam,
Virajam
the gigantic universal form.
The gigantic universal form.
Udritya,
Udritya
manifesting.
Manifesting.
Tam. Unto that.
Unto that.
Anu.
Anu.
Later.
Later.
Pravishat.
Pravishat.
Entered.
Entered.
Vibhu.
Vibhu.
The Supreme.
The Supreme.
Translation and prepared by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. After creating the total material energy, the Mahatattva, and thereby manifesting the gigantic universal form with senses and sense organs, the Supreme Lord entered within it. Fully satisfied by the answers of the sage Maitreya, Vidura wanted to understand the remaining portions of the creative function of the Lord, and he took the clue from the previous topic. If you want, Hera Govinda Prabhu, I will read one more, but I don't need to, but since it's very short.
Yeah, it's according to your preference and inspiration.
Okay, I think I will stay with just one then. Amagyanatimidandhasya gyananjana chalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam yena bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shivishagam Vidhamcha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamame Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gora Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Okay. So, so welcome everyone. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming on this summer morning or afternoon to hear Srimad Bhagavatam class and discussion. And I actually am very stuck in my personal reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, stuck at the same place as I was 7 years ago or so when I was doing the first round, because in my experience, the Canto 3, 2, 3, and 4 are just so complicated that it doesn't flow for me when I read, and I get stuck and frustrated, and then I don't read. So I went back to read Bhagavad Gita. So I'm going my, 10th round of Bhagavad Gita, and I'm in chapter 7. And so when I was asked to lead this class, I was hoping that I will stumble upon some verse that will be relatable. But of course, Krishna didn't let me slide so easily. So all the verses before Maharaj Vidura is glorifying the spiritual master and the importance to hear from the self-realized soul and all these things that are so nice and need to give class on. And here we have how Supreme Lord enters into the total material energy. So that's a little more unrelatable for me. But I found a relatable verse in Bhagavad Gita, which really preparing for this class gave me a clue how maybe I could read Srimad Bhagavatam in the future when I get back to that stuck point that I can just, okay, this is too complicated, but I can go to the ABC and see what Bhagavad Gita has to say about that topic. So it's chapter 9, text 4 of Bhagavad Gita, which I'm going to read if you want to follow with the text. Chapter 9, text 4. Maya tatam vidam sarvam jagat avyaktam murtina matstani sarva bhutani nacham teshvavashtita. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is not perceivable through the gross material senses. It is said that Lord Shri Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, and so on cannot be understood by material senses. Only to one who is engaged in pure devotional service under proper guidance is he revealed. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Premanjana Churita, and so on. One can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, always within himself and outside himself, if he has developed the transcendental loving attitude towards him. Thus, for people in general, he is not visible. Here it is said that although he is all-pervading, everywhere present, he is yet not conceivable by the material senses. But actually, although we cannot see him, everything is resting in him. As we have discussed in the 7th chapter, the entire material cosmic manifestation is only a combination of his two different energies, the superior spiritual energy and the inferior material energy. Just as the sunshine is spread all over the universe, the energy of the Lord is spread all over the creation, and everything is resting in that energy. Yet, one should not conclude that because he is spread all over, he has lost his personal existence. To refute such arguments, the Lord says, I am everywhere and everything is in me, but still I am aloof. For example, a king heads a government which is but the manifestation of the king's energy. The different governmental departments are nothing but the energies of the king, and each department is resting on the king's power. But still, one cannot expect the king to be present in every department personally. That is a crude example. Similarly, all the manifestations that we see and everything that exists both in this material world and in the spiritual world are resting on the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The creation takes place by the diffusion of its different energies. And as is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, he is everywhere present by his personal representation, the diffusion of his different energies. So this is a little more relatable version for me. And so Krishna is the original person, and then from him emanates the rest of everything that is. And he has different energies, like some are equal to him, like he has his personal expansions like Lord Balaram, and some are almost equal to him, not quite, like the Vishnu Tattva, and some are even smaller as per his like qualities, and that's the living entities, the Jivas, and also he has the material energy. So his energies in a simplified way can be divided as his external energy and his internal energy, and then his marginal energy, which is us, the spirit souls, and we are very tiny and we are influenced either by the internal or the external energy. And so the original Supreme Person, the primeval Lord, Krishna, when he creates the material energy, he is aloof of it, as said in Bhagavad Gita. It's already his expansions that are in charge. On Monday, we are going to celebrate the appearance day of Lord Balaram. And he's described as the first expansion of Lord Krishna. And Lord Balaram is in charge of emanating the other expansions that are again in charge of the material creation and the material universe, and all that we come in contact with in this material world is these expansions of expansions. So it's like in my understanding, this is the one exception when Lord Krishna's internal energy is like entering into something that could be considered as a material body. Like the Krishna, when he appears 5,000 years ago in his original form, he doesn't take on a material body. Even though some people who live at that age, they don't see that. They don't have the eyes to see any difference. That Krishna is fully spiritual, like in his appearance here 5,000 years ago. Where in this creation, when he creates the material universe and creates all the substance, the external energy, then his expansion of the expansions, Lord Vishnu, enters into that form. So it's almost, not quite, as a spirit soul entering the material body, is entering a material body. And because it's not Krishna himself, he is still aloof. He has his energies, which are, or who are, having the same or almost the same power, but they are not Krishna himself. So I found for you the difference between Vishnu and Krishna in a nectar of devotion. So Lord Krishna has 64 qualities, out of which we can have in a small portion 79%. So I don't know if it's 50. I didn't look at that. Maybe we can have 50. Did I go in there for 50? Yes. So we can, after out of 64 qualities of Krishna, we can have 50 of these qualities, but in a very small portion. And Lord Vishnu, he can have 60 of these qualities, and I would say in a full, as fully as 100% to the expansion as Krishna, but not 4 qualities. So maybe we could do a little quiz here. So who knows what qualities, it's 4 qualities that Lord Krishna has, and we will not find in Lord Vishnu. Out of the 64 qualities.
Maybe one is always surrounded by his associates.
Jai, yes, it's very correct. He is surrendered by devotees endowed with wonderful love of Godhead. Flute, yes, Haribo, Parampara Prabhu is getting the second one. Lord Krishna is having and playing the flute, and Lord Vishnu is not playing the flute.
Peacock feather?
Peacock feather. Well, it doesn't speak of a peacock feather in here. Maybe it's not considered a quality, because it's like, so the quality is he can attract all living entities all over the universe by playing on his flute. So it's not just that he has a flute, but it's a quality of the ability to play on the flute in such a way that everyone is attracted. So I imagine the feather itself is not a quality per se. But I imagine that Lord Vishnu doesn't have a feather, so it's not a bad guess. So, any other ideas? One is really quite obvious.
The lover of Srimati Radharani?
It's not in the nectar of devotion. But what does like Krishna mean? What the very word, what the name Krishna means?
All
All
attract.
attractive.
Yes, so he's the most beautiful. Oh, he has a wonderful excellence of beauty which cannot be rivaled anywhere in the creation. And the last one is he's the performer of wonderful varieties of pastimes, especially his childhood pastimes. So these 4 qualities are the qualities that we find only in Krishna. I'm not sure about Balaram, but I tried to make a research on it once and I still wasn't sure, but I found a picture where Lord Balaram is playing a flute. That's all I can say. Hare Krishna. So yes, so when we speak of Krishna himself, he's unique and distinct, even amongst all his expansions that are in one sense equal to him. And so that's why he says, all beings are in me, but I am not in them. Because when he speaks, they are in me, he speaks about his energies or expansions, and I am not in them. Me, Krishna, who plays the flute and is the most beautiful and has always surrendered by the loving associates. He's not, how to say, he's not in them. Like when we have the Paramatma in our heart, it's actually expansion of Vishnu. I believe it's a Kshirodakashai Vishnu. Okay, good. Kshirodakashai Vishnu. So, and it's described that when eventually the spirit soul who is lost in the material creation comes in contact with the pure devotee spiritual master, by his mercy, the spirit soul can develop the love for Krishna, and then by that love, the Paramatma in the heart, four-handed Vishnu form is changed into Shyama Sundar, Krishna playing the flute in the heart of the devotee. So that's where we can get. And I'm like, recently, I went to Padayatra 2 weeks ago. I was still on Padayatra last 2 days. And I am like recently really appreciating the sattva quality. I think it was like there is this principle of like, okay, like wherever we are, and it doesn't matter what modes of nature we are in.
Hladini, if you'd like, maybe there might be some here who aren't quite understanding what Padayatra is. So if you just want to explain what is the Padayatra, if you want, because some might not understand.
Okay, I will. So pada means foot, and yatra is like a sacrifice. Can we say like a sacrifice? And we call it a traveling festival, and there is a card with the deities of Lord Goranitai and Shah Prabhupada. So it's a temple on the wheels, and the temple is pulled around by a pair of oxes with long horns, and then it's traveling from, as Lord Chaitanya's desire, from one village to another, with a big kirtan going on as the Lord is moving from one place to the next place. And the devotees are singing and chanting in the streets, in the forests, on the roads, and everywhere and anywhere. And the lords are going to pick up their devotees. That's how I experienced the Padayatra festival, that the Lord, because I was also organizing the journey this time, and it's quite, because it's maybe 70 devotees, and we look for a place where we can have an evening program festival, and everyone sleeps and all that. So when I call to a village that have 200 inhabitants, hey, we would like to come with 70 people. You know, for some of the magistrates, it's a little headache, and they say, oh no, it's not possible here. So it was really visible how the Lord wanted to arrange the journey according to his own will, by, you know, not this place, that place, like that. The journey was unfolding itself. And then we could see at every of these places, there was at least one, if not more, people who were like such a serious devotees. They didn't know it until the Lord came to pick them up. So it really felt like, okay, so Lord Chaitanya personally going to pick up his devotees at these like most tiny villages, you know, in Czech Republic, middle of nowhere, and people were coming to the card of like Shah Prabhupada. So many people came to greet Shah Prabhupada because they thought he was alive. Of course, we understand Shah Prabhupada is alive, sitting then there on the car, but the people really had the eyes to see, and they were bringing gifts to Shah Prabhupada, and they were coming to the program. And after the program, we were doing like little research review. What attracted you to come to the program? And oftentimes the response was, because of this monk on the card, I wanted to meet him and get to know him. Like, so I have a goosebumps just to speak about it, how potent it is to bring Shah Prabhupada and bring the temple outside the walls of the temple. And so Padayatra really has everything that Shah Prabhupada gave us. Like there is book distribution, prasadam distribution, and Harinam chanting congregationally in the streets, and there is deity worship and cow protection. So many people come in contact with these huge oxes, and they're like, wow, they are such nice animals. How can someone eat them? How do you eat them? So that's what I was doing 2 weeks ago still. And where I want to take it is like the principle of the different modes of material natures versus transcendence were coming alive to me and still are, because there is this principle of like wherever we are at, it doesn't matter, you know, if you are completely in the tamas or in rajas or in goodness. I imagine everyone here knows what these three are. Okay. So, so you can just take to service of Lord Krishna, and you can completely transcend these modes. And it was completely my experience in the Padayatra, and it was manifesting in like many unconceivable ways. Like the devotees were fighting a lot. I mean, it's always happening, but this time I was maybe more aware because I was more in the leadership position or whatever. But it's like a constant, it's an intense experience. We start like before 7 a.m. expected that everyone is packed, chanted 16 rounds, and took somehow or other take care for the cleanliness. So, and then from 7 till 9 p.m. is like 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. is like completely full, intense program. So there is no time for fighting, which is good. But the devotees in the meantime, they always find a way how to like at least criticize someone or like, you know, bump at each other the frustration of the intensity and the anartha nivritti that's going on there in the intense setup. And then there is like these moments of like everyone comes to be like completely transcendental. Like I shared of our last evening. It was so beautiful. We were packing after the last program, and there was some devotee woman who was playing very sweet kirtan throughout the whole packing, and the devotees were like so synchronized, and then the deities' outfits were being packed and put away, and then finally the deities were put into the car to go to their temple where they reside throughout the rest of the year. And at that time the night fell, so it was dark and there were stars, and I think it freed the devotees to like really feel free to cry, and everyone was crying. Like the most intense people on the Padayatra with like, you know, rage problems and things like this. It was just like everyone was crying and everyone was embracing each other, and we were like sitting in the grass like that. Very sweet moment. Or even like I would say 1 hour. And then I was thinking, okay, so now everyone is so close and so like tender-hearted to each other. I'm sure that this is it, you know, the fight is over. But no, this is just like, okay, the moment is over, and then like, how dare you are, you put this thing over there, and So as soon as the moment of what I would call transcendence was over, then everyone was back in the modes of the original place. And so it really came to me alive how important this mode of sattva is. I think for 10 years of my, or almost 10 years of my spiritual practice, I was like, who cares about the sattva? Hare Krishna. But because it's not really important, right? Like we have the metaphor. And I'm really happy that I can say the metaphor this time in the proper way. I never actually heard it in a proper way. So let's say Prague is transcendence. See, no one ever says that in the metaphor, but it's important. So let's say Prague is transcendence. And it is like the Czech Republic, I think, is really like quite a boon of the Krishna consciousness expansion now. I feel like we are in it. Like when Srila Prabhupada came to United States in 65 and then 69 and early 70s, and it was like tsunami wave of people being really excited, enthusiastic, and ripe to join the movement. So that's how it feels a little in Czech Republic now. Like anywhere we came with the Padayatra, the people were so favorable. It was almost like mind-boggling because my experience like of the previous years was like, oh, who wants this Hare Krishna, go away, this is a dangerous cult. But this time it almost felt like the people didn't even like make the connection that this is the danger cult Hare Krishna. It was just like so attractive. Like people, like everywhere we were going, like people were coming to their yards and waving and smiling and bringing gifts to the deities and flowers and fruits and coming to the programs in hundreds, even in these little villages where there is like practically no inhabitants. And we had the magister who would say, like when there is there are different programs in the villages, people never come to these programs, they would tell us. And then we would have like the whole village, like literally the whole village to come for this program. And from the very beginning, there is Hare Krishna chanting. So they could say like, oh, this is the Hare Krishna thing, let's go. No, they stay for the whole 1.5 hour program. And then they're like, okay, that's it, No, they stay around and many of them walk the next day to the next village, like that. So yeah, so Prague is transcendence. We also have like relatively most Govinda restaurants in Czech Republic, or at different devotee restaurants. So there is like a major prasadam distribution. So much more in other countries for how small the country is. And it's taking effect, it seems. And so Prague is transcendence. And let's say someone in Alachua, Florida, wants to go to transcendence, right? So in this metaphor, oh God, I cannot say it. Okay, I'm going for it. In this metaphor, Alachua is like lower modes of the nature. But if you like really want to go to Prague, the best place to go to is Gainesville or Jacksonville Airport. So that will represent sattva here. So of course, as the metaphor goes on, to be in sattva for itself, it's useless. It's not any better than to be in Alachua or anywhere else, because it's really not closer to Prague. And at the same time, the chances are higher there, right? So that sounds like, okay, why to bother with sattva? I can like jump from tamas to transcendence fairly easily. And then I have coaching sessions and I'm like, why do I fall down so deep and low after all these service experiences? And it has been my experience always in this past, however I practice, that anytime I give myself like more fully to practicing Krishna consciousness, then I fall, but like fall like so down that to like climb up a little bit feels like impossible task. And so that's the Tamas Transcendence project, which I feel after these 2 weeks of Padayatra, I feel complete on the Tamas Transcendence project, because it really doesn't give one any like sane platform to like steadily progress when the transcendence is not there. And of course, from Tamas, we can jump to transcendence by the mercy of the association of the devotees and of our spiritual master Srila Prabhupada and of Krishna, which is like, okay, if I don't give this person a little bit of more drug of Krishna consciousness, he's going to like fade completely like that like without, some sattvic qualities, like commitment, for example, and steadiness and like that, it's very difficult to progress and to not have this crazy, like, how is it called, a bipolar disease. It really creates like a bipolar disease to want to jump from Tamas to transcendence and back. So we are practicing also. I have a verse that speaks about it, but I think I lost it. Yeah, I don't think I will find it again. Srila Prabhupada speaks in Bhagavad Gita how, of course, like the devotee doesn't really like endeavor for it because it's comes as a natural a side effect of practicing Krishna consciousness, and at the same time, like we have a whole section in Bhagavad Gita on the different modes and how they are affecting our consciousness, and also where we are going after this lifetime, right? So if someone is in the mode of sattva, there is a good chance to get a human body in the next life and continue to practice Krishna consciousness. So there is an internal interrelation of the principles, and I don't want to say in my communication skills, I had manifested a higher level of sattva than most of the devotees on the Padayatra, and I feel very proud of it. But it doesn't say that I manifested more modes of sattva altogether, okay? So there are devotees who are like really have a high level of commitment to cleanliness. And even on the Padayatra situation, they manage to take a whole body shower after any time they use a bathroom. Or, they get up at 3 a.m. and chant their rounds very attentively. Or, they have like a high level of austerity when it comes to eating, for example. I'm not saying everyone, it's just like taking one devotee after another. They would say like everyone manifests the sattvic qualities in different areas of life, and in different areas of life less than sattvic qualities. And and I could really see like how the mode of sattva is so conductive for self-realization and for the service that we came together to do together. Because without the mode of sattva, it really comes to like quite a crazy, unhappy situation, and many devotees like left because they felt offended. And I don't blame them, of course. We are supposed to be like tolerant in fame and honor and dishonor and like that, which the devotees who criticize everyone, that's their explanation. Like, I'm not doing anything wrong. This person should be more tolerant. Their fault, they left. And anyhow, without the sattvic qualities, the whole situation become so much more difficult, and also so much more like distasteful for the material senses. And because we are conditioned by the material modes, we are also affected, right? Like we are affected by what we feel and experience and perceive on these platforms. So every morning, because there was a group of devotees, maybe 20 or 30, who was going all 2 weeks. And then the others were coming like for 1 day or 3 days or a week. And there were like constant flow of like new devotees coming and devotees leaving like that. So every morning we would have like some rules, setting up the rules. And some of them were just like, so even inconceivable that we have to say it. And even if we said it, there would still be some who would not, cooperate with that. Like, for example, sometimes we go on a road where there is a lot of traffic. And then if you have, 70 people walking and the oxes and the car, it's like a long thing and very slow. And the drivers will not expect to meet such a thing on the road, right? So we have to be like very neat and organized, and we have someone at the back with the red flag and someone in the front to coordinate traffic. And then there is like, okay, so like don't, for example, you see apple trees on the other side of the road, so don't run there to get the apples, because it will like create havoc in the traffic situation. And not only that, but we will, we will look like a group of like really crazy people, like some like, disturbing, like we will be like disturbance to the society, and it will create negative taste. So, and then there are always devotees who do that, because they don't even listen to the instructions at the first place, or they space out. And there is like, hundreds, I could go to hundreds of examples like that of, like basic sattvic things that we also as a group, we influence the people who come to the programs. So we can give them like prasadam, this is transcendental, right? But like in which form it comes, it will affect the people, how they are served the prasadam, if it's, with a smile and, or like we had some like annoyed teenage who do that. So it's just like a different, it's material, we understand it, it's a material package, but it's that package of what we bring out to the public, and that's what the people will see at the first place, really. Like they are attracted, right? In their heart, they are attracted because they see Srila Prabhupada on the card, and then they come and they are just like people like cursing each other and nasty at each other and like mess everywhere and garbage and this and that. So of course that will diminish the desire to associate with us. So I need to say we did really well as a group. We manage our conflicts internally and externally. It looks like nicely packed sattvic gift to the public. And I just like came really to much higher realization how the mode of sattva is so important for us and our consciousness. Our leader says first we need to be conscious and then Krishna conscious, because they also have experiences over the years how someone is like so ecstatic and then think that they find themselves in the middle of the street with the cars driving, So first we need to be conscious and then Krishna conscious. And this being conscious, that's the mode of sattva. Like, okay, being aware, how do I communicate? Am I clean? How am I contributing to the environment that is like neat and clean and welcoming? And how I'm influencing the people. And then of course this mode of sattva, that's what also the people see with their material senses when they come, maybe attracted by the transcendental Paramatma inspiration in their heart. So there is one more story I want to say. And our story. realization or a principle that really the mode of sattva doesn't correlate with the level of spiritual realization. That was my experience on Padayatra, and I believe it's valid. Like, so that we had actually the father of the leader, he was one of the most like least communication skills, and because of him most people who left was because of him. But also he is the person who for 30 years is like the touchstone that the Padayatra is happening. And not only that, but for example on day one it was a pouring rain, like Florida pouring rain, and we only have like tents outside, and there is this little village of 200 people. And I am in charge of the prasadam distribution team to prepare and to distribute. And everyone comes to me and tells me like, you know, don't do it today. It's useless. We will just throw everything away. No one is going to come. And these are devotees who go to the Padayatra past 20 years, you know, so on. And I mean, even in my little experience, yes, when it's like that, no one will come. Why would people come in a pouring rain to, you know, see the devotees of Krishna? And then this leader, who, you know, his communication skills are, as I say, very little. And he, you know, and he goes to like, well, they are not tolerant. They should leave the Padayatra like that if someone disagrees with how he communicates. And he tells me, no, make at least for 100 people. And so I'm like gathering the team, and we have like plastic bags over our heads and like trying to, you know, make the preps. And it's great. And all the devotees were going by are like laughing at us that we are crazy, you know, why do you do that? And then 150 people came. And fortunately, not everyone wanted to have prasadam. So it was okay. And they were like, you know, dozen situations like this with the Padayatra leader, whom, you know, by like judging the mode of sattva, maybe not that high, at least not in this area of life. But then like such a commitment to like, and that's sattva too, right? Now we are like doing the service, the result is on Krishna, but we always have to expect that the people are coming, right? So it's prepared and Krishna can send them, or Chaitanya can send them. And if we are not doing that, you know, then there is like, what's the point? I was always, in every situation, I learned to like always, when I wasn't sure, to go to him. And I would always listen what he said, and he was always like, right. So there is not a real, like we cannot judge by our mundane perception the level of someone else's realization and what they have in their heart. And it's really nice and neat to have some sattva in the middle of that transcendence. So there is like this safe net to fall into when the transcendence like goes down like that. Hare Krishna. So I'm going to read the verse again. Srishtvagre mahat adine savikaranyanu tebhyo virajam undritya tam anupravishat vibhu. After creating the total material energy in the Mahatattva and thereby manifesting the gigantic universal form with senses and sense organs, the Supreme Lord entered within it. Hare Krishna. So, questions, comments, sharings, realizations.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Hladini Shakti.
Hare Krishna, Hare Govinda Prabhu.
Yeah, for leading class on Srimad Bhagavatam, filled with your personal experiences on walking around the Czech Republic with 70 devotees and taking Krishna consciousness to every village and town. Lord Chaitanya's verse, Priti Vityachayata Nagaradi Gram Sarvatra Pratra Hoibe More. He says that this 500 years ago or so, he said this Krishna consciousness, chanting Hare Krishna, will be spread to every town and village on the surface of the earth. So you're doing that with a group of sincere devotees, and so yeah, I mean the metaphor came to me hearing you speak that sattva is not the goal, just like the Gainesville or Jacksonville airport's not the goal. At the same time, it's like a safety net. It's like a safety net, because full transcendence, that's just loving, spontaneous, enthusiastic service to Krishna. And I guess, okay, using the examples you used, so like the devotees there towards the closure, they were in that sweet transcendence, and just that come from serving, doing devotional service together, just the bond of hearts with Krishna and Srila Prabhupada in the center, full transcendence. Okay, but then there was apparently some lapse from transcendence, and then let's say just in that realm of communication, and I like how you said there's sattva in communication, there's sattva in cleanliness, sattva in rising early, sattva in money management, in every field. But let's just say so let's say if there was more of a safety net of sattva, then even if there's some descending from transcendence, and then there's some disagreement, and then there would be just naturally respectful communication, first endeavoring to understand, and then seeking to be understood, and owning my thoughts and feelings and judgments and like that. And so without that safety net, then if by chance we descend from transcendence, then it could become quite that extreme crash curve. So just the metaphor of a safety net came to me.
Hare Krishna, Lira Govinda Prabhu. Yes, the safety net of sattva, exactly. It sounds good. So I am putting it higher on my priority list now. Okay, any other comments?
I have a question. Will you say more specifically about what you're talking about, Krishna's internal expansion or internal potencies and external potencies or external expansions? Can you say more on what those are specifically?
Yes, I hope so. Hare Krishna. So Krishna's internal expansions, that's I would say that's like the living energy. Maybe it's not the proper term to use, but the external expansion, that's the non-living energy, like the material world without the living entities. So it's a matter. And then the internal expansions, they are life, like they are conscious. And we, as the Jivas, we are counted as the marginal expansions, because we are life and conscious, but also we are very small and we can be influenced by the, like Krishna himself never can be influenced by the material nature, by his external energy, but we are so small that we can be influenced by his external energy. And so the internal energy expansions, that's Krishna's different incarnations and his expansions. So there is a difference between incarnation and expansion. I think you can always correct me, Dura Govinda Prabhu, I'm starting to sweat a little. So the incarnations, my understanding is they are like the descending avatars who come to the material world for various purposes, like Lord Nrsimhadev, or Varahadev, or Vamanadev, or Karna, the tortoise, or Matsya, or like that. And then his expansions, they are not necessarily for coming into the material world. Like his expansion is Lord Balaram, So they have, my understanding is the two of them have their eternal pastimes in the spiritual world. But Lord Balaram is Krishna's expansion. And then Lord Balaram also has expansions. So it's expansion of the expansion, like Sankarsana, Aniruddha, Vasudeva, Pradyumna. And then Vishnu, he comes from Sankarshan, I believe. Hare Krishna. So it's complex. It's complex. But it's, I think the analogy that Srila Prabhupada sometimes uses is the sun. So Krishna is like the sun, and then his expansions, the internal energy is the sun rays. And then the external energy would be the clouds. And they also are the energy of the sun, because the sun energy through the evaporation of the water creates the clouds. But the cloud doesn't have anymore the quality of the sun or the sun rays. And then that sun rays will get on the other side of the cloud, doesn't see the sun anymore. So that's like us. If you want to know more about these things, you can read Srimad Bhagavatam.
And Chaitanya Charitamrita. Thank you for the question, Valerie, and your response, Hladini Shakti. I'm not sure if you said that the living entities, the jivas, you said they're material or you said they're marginal energy?
Oh, I said marginal.
Marginal. Okay, yeah, right. So the living entities, us, we're also internal energy, but I would say we're a type of internal energy that is marginal. I really liked how you brought in the sun analogy, and the rays are the internal energy, and we're like the sun rays, and then the cloud is also created by the sun. That's the external energy. So basically, external energy is Maya. It's matter, and yeah, you read that verse from Bhagavad Gita, like that. And so Maya is controlled by the demigoddess Durga or Kali, Shrishti, Stiti, Pranaya, Sadhana, Shakti, Reka. And so Kali is a servant of Krishna. So the external energy is also controlled by Krishna. And in hearing this discussion, I'm reminded of the famous Hladini Shakti verse. It's the fifth. It's the fifth verse of the first chapter of Adi Leela Chaitanya Charitamrita. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti Hladini Shakti or Asmat. And it's really Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami quoting Rupa Goswami, and describes that the loving affairs between Sri Radha and Krishna are a manifestation of Lord Sri Krishna's internal pleasure-giving potency. So all those pastimes of the spiritual world, the gopis and the cowherd boys and Mother Yashoda, that's all manifestations of the internal potency, and pastimes in forgetfulness of Krishna, the material world, related to misidentification with the material body. That's the external energy. And so in a sense, from Krishna's point of view, or from the point of view of the pure devotee of Krishna, it's all spiritual, because even the external energy is meant to bring us back to realize who we are as spirit, soul, servant of Krishna. But from our point of view, it's important to make distinctions. Yeah, here's a particular energy. Sure, it's related to Krishna, but if I get immersed in it, then it's going to move me to deeper self-alienation. So that's material energy and like that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hladini. Thank you for giving class.
Krishna,
It was, I was very listening with big ears, your experience of the Padayatra. And yeah, like the connection between the Krishna as Vishnu, as a super soul, like residing in everyone's heart, and how, in a sense, our conditioning and our is not like he has the power to make us say things or do things, even if we're totally untrained or unqualified or uneducated. And yeah, I just came back from 2 weeks Ireland. We were traveling in Ireland, and Ireland has a very, like, the saints are very alive. Like I heard 2 women speaking at a counter in a shop about something they were planning to do in their life, and as part of the conversation, they were speaking about Mother Mary and wondering what Mother Mary would think of their, of their plan. So it was very, very sweet and inspiring. And I read a lot about Bridget of Kildare, and I read the Confessions of St. Patrick. And St. Patrick, many know St. Patrick, just St. Patrick's Day, and it's a big Tamasic festival. and St. Patrick was like a really like empowered devotee of God. He transformed the consciousness of a whole island, and brought God consciousness to the Irish, or to the Celts, or the, whatever name they had then, or whatever tribe they belonged to. When in his Confessions, he writes about, maybe a part of it is his humility, and yet from what I researched, it's true that he didn't receive like a very high education, and he didn't have like the language of the kings, and yet that's where he was most powerful, in approaching the kings, the lords, and the wives of the lords, and like opening or transforming their heart, or their hearts transformed in his presence. For somehow or other, he would have the right words. He would know what to say to open up their minds and touch their heart. So yeah, I was just making these connections while listening. That's Paramatma has the power to make us speak what's just the right thing for the other person to hear.
Thank you, Nandini. That's inspiring, and I definitely experienced a lot of that on Padayatra too, of this like super soul inspired moments that just things click together in most unconceivable way. And also, as you are speaking about preaching to the kings and their wives and the lords and like that, it's amazing. Like I think part of Shri Prabhupada's program was to approach the really influential people in India and worldwide to like this. There is this quote in Bhagavad Gita that what the great man does, the common man follows. I think it like mostly is that idea behind that. And not only also to have a government that's Krishna conscious. That itself is such a great boon for the society. And through the experience of organizing or coordinating the Padayatra and getting in contact with like many of the magisters and the quotes unquote big people. If a magistry of a 200 people village is a big person, but a big people. And it was amazing experience, and also like amazing to see like there are like amongst of these people, there are people who are favorable, and it like opens such a big range of possibilities. Of like one of the magister we went to, and she at the end, like when the program ends, there is like a spontaneous dance, for the people, it looks like this is like extra, but we always do that, but they don't know that. So the magister, she was getting some face paint. We have a devotee lady, and she offers the people who come with their children and also to adults, she paints different pictures on their face, but she always starts with the tilak. So many children and adults are leaving with the tilak and, little flower or something on their face. So this magister, she was getting her face painted when we had the final Hare Krishna dance, and usually that's very ecstatic. And she came after that and she was like, I'm so sad that I didn't get to dance, and sometimes we would do like a little more kirtan in that scenario, but in this scenario, our leader decided not to. And he's like, if you want to, we could come back and we can organize like a kirtan dance party for you and your inhabitants here. And she was like, yeah, that's so great. So and it was so visible, like when the magister was on our side, they invite the people and it becomes like a very official thing. And the people have like such a greater tendency to come. So it's a good strategy. I'm contemplating it a lot to reach to people who have influence like that. Okay, so thank you very much, everyone.
Hare Krishna. I just want to say
Hare Krishna Parampara Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Hladini Shakti. I appreciate hearing. Thank you for your class, and I appreciate hearing your kind of front lines report there. And it's interesting to me on a historical level, or the evolution of Srila Prabhupada's movement. That to hear how it's like spreading in Czech Republic, and also it's interesting to me because I've heard about, I know some devotees from Lithuania, and they said that it was like it's a different flavor. It's like for the Krishna consciousness movement that kind of spread later. So like it spread like more like into the 90s in Lithuania. So they didn't have all the stuff that was going on in the 80s, so there's like a different flavor. It's a little more fresh, or like not as much whatever baggage, tied to it. So it's just interesting to like different waves of Srila Prabhupada's movement. Of course, whenever he was on the planet, 60s and 70s, it has this perfection. And then but then it's like for those devotees, for those areas that were established in the 60s and 70s, then they lived through different phases. And then there's another flavor of like the spreading that's happening now, which here my understanding is, especially in Eastern Europe, it's like it's still like it's like that, like maybe it was in different areas in the 70s or 80s. So I'm just appreciating and thinking about Srila Prabhupada's movement and like a bigger picture, the different waves, historical context, things like that. So thank you for your front lines report there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Parampara Prabhu. I appreciate what you are sharing about how like Srila Prabhupada's movement and the waves, it comes in like waves or a tsunami waves in different places at the different times like that. And of course, for the countries where it was like underground for the first years of Prabhupada's movement, and it came later. And in some ways is protected from different distasteful things, that like we shouldn't judge the philosophy by the way how it was abused. But then for sure there is some protection from the way how it was abused. If it's good or bad, I'm not sure, but for sure the devotees have still very high level of how to say. Well, I would say, it's like they come together and serve under the one institution, and like that, it's probably easier here than somewhere else. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shyam Prabhupada ki jai, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.